Hey guys, tonight we step aboard a creaking wooden vessel bobbing in the dark waters of the medieval sea. The air is thick with salt sweat and the stench of half-rotten meat. The sails are heavy with mist, and lanterns swing gently as you creep across the damp deck. You feel a dull ache in your stomach. You haven't eaten a real meal in days. And now a shadowy figure shouts across the bow, "It's time to prepare for a raid." If you're hoping for parrots' rum and treasure maps, you're in for a shock. Real medieval pirates were desperate, brutal, and constantly on the edge of death. You probably won't survive this night, but don't worry, you won't be alone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I always love hearing that. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sea rocks you with an eerie rhythm. You clutch the rough hemp rail as the moonlight glitters on the waves. You're a new recruit aboard the Sea Wraith, a pirate cog notorious for raiding merchant ships between the Hanseatic ports and the English coast. Your captain, Old Earhart, claims to have served under Roger de Fleur, though no one knows if he's lying or just mad. You haven't been paid in weeks, but gold's not the reason you're here. You're running from the gallows, a bounty, or maybe just a bad marriage. Either way, this rotting deck is your home now. Your ship is small, cramped, and overrun with rats. There's no privacy. You sleep shoulder to shoulder on damp straw stuffed into the lower deck, where the air tastes like mold. When the weather turns, the leaks spring loose and you wake drenched and shivering, the sea sloshing against your boots. Meals are worse. If you're lucky, it's salted cod, mostly bones, more salt than fish. If you're not, it's hardtack with weevils crawling out before you take a bite. Sometimes you don't even pick them out. They're just more protein. And then there's the grog. It's not rum comes later. Here it's a foul mix of beer and vinegar, just enough to keep the water from killing you. The barrels are full of slime. Still, you drink because thirst is worse. You keep a dagger tied to your chest, not just for battle, but in case the man beside you gets any ideas while you sleep. You've already seen one man stabbed over a half-rotten onion. Fighting is brutal and chaotic. There's no glamour. You don't swing from ropes or shout witty insults. You charge onto a deck slippery with blood, shoulder your way through terrified sailors, and swing a cutlass that's chipped and dull from a dozen skirmishes. The first time your hands shook. The second, you felt sick. By the third, you felt nothing. You've learned to aim low hamstrings and knees. Bring them down first. Mercy gets you killed. And still, it's better than life on land. There's no lord to steal your crop, no plague in the next village, no priest demanding tithes while your belly groans. Out here, death is honest. You either take or are taken. The code is survival. The only justice comes from the crew. If you steal, they'll tie you to the mast and lash you till your back runs red. If you betray them, they'll slit your throat in the night and feed you to the waves. And yet you stay. You grow into the rhythm, the shout of the lookout, the creak of timber, the smell of pitch. You learn to love the fog, the squawk of gulls at dawn, the hiss of steel drawn under moonlight. You start to feel like this mad floating world is where you belong. The land fades from your memory. The sea becomes your only truth. The morning after a raid is when reality bites the hardest. Blood congeals between the deck's planks, sticky under your boots. The bodies, some of them yours, most of them theirs, are sorted into piles. The surviving prisoners are shackled below, groaning and cursing, but not for long. They'll be ransomed if they're worth anything. If not, they'll be sold or tossed overboard when food runs low. Mercy is a fantasy for merchants. Out here, everything and everyone has a price. You help loot the captured ship barrels of pickled cabbage, smoked eels, and sacks of flour. These are the real treasures. A few bolts of cloth, some coin, even boots that aren't full of holes, small miracles. Jewelry is rare. Most merchants don't flaunt wealth on pirate-infested waters. What you do find, you divide according to the ship's articles, the code that governs the crew. The captain gets a double share, the quartermaster too. You, a single share, and a bruise on your shoulder that turns black by sunset. There's no room for sentimentality. The merchant's first mate begged for his life before someone cracked his skull with an axe. You didn't do it, but you didn't stop it either. No one does. Out here, survival means silence. You learn not to look too long into a dying man's eyes. The sea takes them. You live. That's the trade. Later, as the sun rises, pale and sickly over the water, the smell of smoke hangs thick in the air. The captured ship now burns on the horizon. Not for show, just strategy. No evidence, no witnesses. You sit on the rail with a crust of bread too hard to bite and watch the fire crackle across the waves like some god's angry finger. Someone plays a shawm, a reed flute, badly, and someone else joins in with a drum made from a barrel and stretched hide. It's not cheerful music, but it's something. You hum along without knowing why. Maybe it's the rhythm, maybe the melancholy. On this sea, even the music sounds like mourning. Your hands are raw from rope burn. You've been helping re-rig the mainsail after it tore in the last storm. No gloves, no praise. Just orders barked by the boatswain, a brute named Kessler with a nose like a smashed turnip and a temper to match. He once broke a man's fingers for stowing rope improperly. You've never forgotten. Below deck, you try to catch some sleep, but the stench keeps you awake, rotting food, unwashed bodies, mildew. You curl up beside a man who snores like a dying ox, another who twitches in his sleep, haunted by things he won't speak of. Someone coughs and spits, then curses. A rat scurries across your chest. You don't even flinch. That was yesterday's problem. Food runs out faster than expected. The quartermaster suspects the cook of skimming. One morning you find the man's apron nailed to the mast and his body missing. No one asks questions. Someone else stirs the pot now. The stew doesn't taste any different. You're sent ashore for supplies, fresh water wood, and whatever you can barter. The coastal village is small, wary. The locals don't speak, but they eye your weapons. You trade with the cunning old woman who runs the alehouse. Salted pork and ale in exchange for a silver ring pried from a dead man's hand. She doesn't ask where it came from. Back aboard, the captain calls a meeting. You gather under the aft sail, all eyes on old Earhart. His coat is patched, his beard wild, his eyes full of fire. He speaks of a galleon rumored to be sailing from Bruges, heavy with Flemish textiles and guarded by only 10 men. The crew murmurs, could be myth, could be madness. But the glint in his eye makes your stomach twist. You've seen that look before. It always ends in blood. The next few days are spent in preparation. You sharpen your weapons, mend the sails, clean the cannon, what little of it you have. It's a rusty bombard, barely accurate, but loud enough to frighten. You sleep in fits, dream of fire and screaming. Sometimes you wake with your hand on your blade, heart pounding. It's normal. Everyone does it. The sea turns gray and choppy as you set course for the shipping lane. You take turns in the crow's nest, eyes peeled for sails. Wind howls through the rigging. The ship creaks like it's sighing in its sleep. Your stomach clenches not from fear, not yet, from hunger. Again. One night the storm hits. Thunder cracks like cannon fire. Rain lashes your face. You cling to the rigging, soaked and shouting, helping lower the sails before they're torn to ribbons. Men scream as waves crash over the deck. One is swept overboard. No one sees who. No one dares let go of the ropes to find out. The sea takes him. You live. That's the trade. When the storm passes, the sea wraith limps forward. The mast is cracked and the forecastle's smashed. But you're alive. And in the distance, as the fog lifts, you see her, a ship, sails trimmed slow and heavy. The galleon. Just as the captain said. Your fingers tighten around your sword hilt. The crew moves like a machine, now silent and tense. No cheering, no boasting. You've learned better. The next few hours will determine everything. And as you stare at that distant silhouette, something inside you shifts. Not fear, not yet. Hunger, the kind that has nothing to do with food. The captain doesn't speak as the galleon draws near. He just raises one hand and the crew snaps to position. You crouch behind a barrel heart, thudding like a war drum. The plan is simple. Get close board fast, and overwhelm before they know what's happening. No cannon fire, not yet. A clean deck is worth more than a scorched one. You lick the salt from your cracked lips and try not to think about dying. The wind favors you. The sea wraith glides forward like a shadow, her sails trimmed low. The lookout signals with a silent hand, 10 men on deck, just like the rumors said. They're clustered near the stern, oblivious. Maybe they think they're safe in these waters. Maybe they've never heard of you. They will. When the order comes, it's a whisper board. Grappling hooks fly. Ropes tighten. You swing across the gap, boots hitting the enemy deck with a thud. No time to think. A sailor lunges, young, panicked, his blade shaking. You parry, then slash. He falls without a sound. Your stomach heaves, but you keep moving. Another man screams, then another. The galleon's crew tries to rally, but they're outnumbered, outmatched. You're desperate. They're not. Within minutes, it's over. Blood streaks the deck, but the ship is yours. A few prisoners huddle by the helm, hands raised. The quartermaster barks for inventory. You're ordered below into the dark. The hold is packed textiles, spices, barrels of preserved fruit. Actual fruit. You almost laugh. This isn't just a haul, it's a miracle. You carry what you can back to the sea wraith, teeth chattering from adrenaline. Someone breaks open a cask of wine. It's sour, but you drink. For a moment there's laughter, a rare, brittle joy. Even the captain grins, eyes bright with greed and satisfaction. You don't celebrate long. The dead are stripped and dumped. The wounded get rum a rag to bite and the ship's dullest blade to cut what needs cutting. You try not to watch. The galleon is torched like the last. No mercy, no witnesses. Smoke coils into the sky as you sail away, bellies full for the first time in weeks. That night, you dream of fire. Again. The days that follow are quiet. The crew is flush with food and sleep. Even Kessler cracks a joke, though no one laughs too hard, no one wants to test his mood. The sails are patched. The deck is scrubbed. The smell of blood fades. You spend your time coiling ropes and oiling your blade, watching the horizon. Then comes the fog. It rolls in like a living thing, thick, wet, and silent. It clings to your skin, mutes every sound. You hear nothing but the slow creak of wood and the rhythmic slap of waves. Visibility drops to nothing. The lookout calls down that he can't see his own fingers. Old Earhart orders half sail and posts double watches. You volunteer for the night shift. Anything's better than stewing below deck in that humid coffin. You pace the rail eyes, straining into the mist. Every sound sets your teeth on edge, a gull's cry, a splash, the groan of wood. Then faintly you hear it oars. You freeze. The fog plays tricks, but not like this. You motion to the watch. He listens, hears it too. You run to the captain's cabin. He's already at the door, sword in hand. Battle stations, he growls. Now. Out of the mist they appear longboats, low and fast. Pirates. But not your kind. These are Baltic raiders, war-trained and ruthless. No code, no quarter. They don't board to rob. They board to kill. Arrows whistle past your ear as the first boat rams the hull. You draw your cutlass and brace for the climb. The first raider over the rail wears no shoes and grins with a mouth full of blackened teeth. You don't give him the chance to speak. Steel meets flesh. Screams erupt across the deck. This isn't like the galleon. These men are fighters. They move fast, coordinated. You're knocked back, your cheek split open. You bite down on pain block, another swing, and thrust hard. The man drops. Another takes his place. You fall into a rhythm, duck strike, step back. The crew fights like cornered wolves. You hear Kessler roar. Someone falls screaming from the rigging. You smell smoke, someone set the galley alight. The world narrows to steel, blood, and flame. Then as quickly as they came, the raiders retreat. 3 boats gone. One set aflame by your own torch and kicked into the sea. They vanish into the fog like ghosts, leaving wreckage and moaning behind. You sit hard on the deck, lungs burning. The dead are many. So are the wounded, but you're alive. Barely. By morning the fog lifts. The sun rises on a deck soaked in blood and rain. The sea is quiet. Too quiet. You begin repairs with shaking hands, hammering broken wood, patching torn sails. There's no ceremony for the dead. You tie weights to their ankles and slip them into the deep. Old Earhart calls you to the stern. You held the line, he says. It's not praise. Not exactly. But it's enough. He gives you a flask, real brandy, not grog. You take a swig and feel it burn all the way down. That night you stare at the stars. No songs, no stories. Just silence. You wonder who those raiders were. You wonder if they'll come back. You wonder why you stayed. But you already know. There's nothing for you on land. The sea is cruel, but at least it's honest. The wounds scab over both on bodies and boards. Days pass uneventful on the surface, but never still beneath. The sea always moves. So does the crew, bandaged, bitter, but breathing. You work with your left arm stiff from a deep cut along the bicep. It still seeps sometimes, but you wrap it tight and keep going. You don't ask for help. No one does. The quartermaster counts the dead 8 gone, including a boy barely 16 who used to hum while he cleaned the cannon. No one knows his real name. They called him Bird because he whistled like one. His hammock is empty now. No one takes it. Superstition runs deeper than blood on this ship. Old Earhart gives no speech, no solemn nods, no moments of silence. Just an order to scrape off the dried blood and get back to work. The sails need mending. The rudder groans with every turn. You start to realize something: this ship survives not because it's strong, but because it refuses to sink. Food is low again. The prize from the galleon bought you a few days of comfort, but appetites are as ruthless as storms. The barrels are lighter. Rats are hungrier. You've seen 3 already today, bold enough to crawl over boots. The cook beats one to death with a ladle, then mutters something in Breton and spits. You chew slowly on salted horse meat. It's hard gray and barely edible. Still better than nothing. Someone cracks a joke that it might have come from the captain's old mount. Nobody laughs. Humor feels like a luxury lately. Sleep, too. You take your rest in short bursts, one eye always half open, one hand on your blade. Whispers spread. The Baltic raiders, they weren't random. Some claim they followed you from the last port. Others think someone gave them your course. A traitor. You scan the faces around you during meals, wondering who looks nervous, who keeps to themselves. The suspicion sits heavier than your injuries. Then comes the punishment. A man is dragged to the main deck at dawn. Ricka, the lantern boy, a wiry lad with quick fingers and quicker lies. They say he's been stealing dried apples from the quartermaster's barrel. Not enough to notice at first. But now it adds up. You didn't even know there were dried apples aboard. He pleads, but no one listens. The articles are clear theft, from the crew is death. Old Earhart reads the charges with the disinterest of a man swatting flies. Kessler ties the boy's hands. The rest of you watch. You don't want to. You can't look away. They don't keel-haul him, that's too slow, too theatrical. They drag him to the stern, weigh his ankles with cannonballs, and tip him over the edge. His scream vanishes beneath the waves. You grip the rail and stare down, waiting for the splash. It never comes. Just silence. The next day, the ship changes course. Southwest toward warmer waters and richer ships. The captain says nothing, but you know what he's thinking: better prey, fewer pursuers. You pass old trade routes, Norman cogs, Breton merchantmen, even a stray crusader galley. You keep your head down when flags rise. Some ships bristle with crossbows. You don't want that fight. Not yet. In calmer seas, the crew loosens slightly. A dice game starts on the mid-deck, and you watch as copper coins clink onto a battered crate. The stakes are low winnings, even lower. But it's not about the prize. It's distraction. You join once, lose everything you have, and walk away with a smile. It feels strange, almost human. You find moments of quiet where you didn't before. A red sunrise over still water. The way gulls circle a mile off, warning of land or death or both. Even the slap of the waves against the hulls becomes something close to comfort. Like a mother's heartbeat in the womb of the world. Then a miracle. Land. It's a smudge on the horizon at first. A speck of brown and green. You recognize the signs: the flight of shorebirds, the scent on the wind, soil, foliage, rot. You haven't stepped on solid earth in weeks, maybe months. Your knees ache just thinking about it. It's a forgotten island, uncharted, unnamed, likely uninhabited. The perfect place to anchor, repair, and maybe forage. Old Earhart approves a landing party. You're on it. The longboat is lowered. You climb in with 5 others, quiet, hard men, who've seen too much and expect even worse. The row to shore is short but strange. The water here is shallower, clearer. You see fish dart beneath the surface. Coral and kelp sway like dancers. When you step onto sand, your legs wobble. Gravity feels wrong. The ground is still. Your body isn't. But you breathe deep air that smells of moss and wet leaves. It's intoxicating. You split up. 2 to look for fresh water, 2 to gather fruit, 2 yourself included to hunt. The jungle is thick, humming with insects, shaded by palms and twisted trees. You find a boar's trail, fresh scat, broken branches. You follow. Hours pass. You sweat through your shirt. Thirst claws at your throat. Then you see it movement in the brush. A pig, small and quick. You throw your knife, miss curse. It bolts. You follow too far. When you stop, it's quiet. Too quiet. You turn and realize you don't know where the others are. You're alone. You hear something behind you. Not a pig. Your blade is out before your brain catches up. The trees rustle. A shadow shifts. Then a laugh. Low. Human. Not one of your crew. You freeze blade, trembling. Another shadow moves. Another laugh. Then silence. You back away, slow blade raised, heart hammering in your chest. You don't know who or what you've just met on this island. But you know this, the sea isn't the only place that demands blood. You keep backing away, a heart-pounding blade still drawn until your foot catches on a root and you nearly tumble. A branch snaps behind you fast, sharp, like a footfall, and instinct drives you forward. You run, not like a soldier, like prey. Leaves whip your arms, thorns rake your legs. You don't look back. You don't dare. Eventually the brush opens. You break into a clearing panting, and there, thank the gods, is Brannock, one of your crew. He's kneeling over a pile of mossy rocks, inspecting mushrooms. You stumble toward him, words tumbling out. He looks up, frowns, stands, listens. When you mention the laugh, his face hardens. "We're not alone," he says. Then he points uphill. "I saw smoke." You follow him back to the beach without speaking. The others are already there, baskets of fruit in hand, skins full of water. Kessler is crouched near the fire pit, sharpening a spear. When you tell the captain what you saw, he just mutters, "Figures." Then he orders a watch on shore and aboard. Whatever's out here, it knows you're here too. The next morning, the decisions made leave at dusk. The island's too quiet, too strange. No one found a hut, a trail, or a voice. Just that laugh. And the smoke now vanished. The crew doesn't like ghosts or stories that sound like them. Still, you eat well that day. Roasted boar mangoes, breadfruit boiled with salt. Someone even finds wild honey. It tastes like sunshine. You almost forget your fear. Almost. At dusk, the longboat's loaded. As you row away, the trees seem to shift. You glance back. Just jungle, just leaves. But something watches. You feel it. You're relieved when the sea wraith pulls anchor and turns north. The wind returns. So does the mist. The island disappears behind you like a dream you'd rather forget. Back at sea, the rhythm takes hold again. Watch, eat, sleep, work, fight boredom. You patch your tunic with thread scavenged from the quartermaster's kit. You carve notches into your belt for every week survived. You've lost count of days. Time means little out here. Only wind direction and belly grumbles seem to matter. And then comes the storm. Not just rain and waves, this one is wrath. Thunder like siege engines. Lightning cracks the sky in spider webs of fire. Waves tower like castle walls. The sea wraith groans and heaves her timbers screaming. Sails snap like bones. Men scream, vanish. One is struck by lightning just gone. Nothing left but a burn mark and smoke. You cling to the rigging teeth clenched, soaked to the marrow. Your blade is strapped tight against your chest. It's useless now, but you can't lose it. Around you, chaos. Barrels, loose ropes whipping. You pray, though you don't know to who. Your gods haven't answered in years. Then silence. The storm passes as swiftly as it came. The sea goes still, eerily so. The sky, purple and bruised, glows with a sickly light. You look around. Half the sails are gone. The main mast splintered. Kessler's arm is broken. One of the younger lads, Miro, is missing. Just his boots remain. You work for hours, bailing water, securing what's left. No one speaks. You tie your hand to the rail while you sleep, just in case the next wave decides to claim you. Morning comes. You're still alive. You always are. Repairs take days. The captain is silent more than usual. His maps are waterlogged, the ink running like veins. You're off course now, deep into unfamiliar waters. Food stores dwindling. Spirits, too. Then a miracle, another ship. A cog smaller than yours, but intact. Flying no colors. Suspicious, but possibly rich. Earhart weighs the odds. Decides to take it. You approach at dusk under the guise of fishermen. Your sails are patched. Your weapons hidden. You wave friendly-like. The ship returns nothing. Just silence. Too quiet. You board cautiously. No resistance. No crew. No bodies either. The deck is clean. Too clean. Barrels are full. Food stores untouched. You step below bunks made hammocks swaying. No signs of struggle. Not a drop of blood. But also not a single soul. You check every hatch, every corner. Empty. The captain curses. Orders the ship searched again. You do, still nothing. It's as if the crew simply vanished. You suggest scuttling the ship. Others agree. But Earhart sees opportunity. Supplies, sails, even an intact compass. He decides to tow it. You lash it behind the sea wraith. You try to forget the silence on board. But you don't sleep well that night. No one does. The next morning, the cog is still there, but different. The sails are ripped. A bloody handprint stains the foremast. No one had gone aboard. You cut the rope, let it drift. By nightfall, the ghost ship is gone, swallowed by mist. No one mentions it again. But every man on the sea wraith sharpens his blade before bed that night. Even Earhart. You stop believing in coincidence after that. Ghost ships, disembodied laughter in jungle thickets, vanishing crew, none of it feels like superstition anymore. It's just the sea baring its teeth a little wider. You learn to accept it the way you accept rot in your rations or salt rashes under your arms. It's just part of the job now. The sea wraith limps through unfamiliar waters for days. The stars change constellations, drifting from what you once knew. The air grows warmer, thicker, as though you're sailing into the mouth of something that breathes. Even the gulls are gone. In their place, frigate birds, long black-winged shadows that watch but never cry. Then a shape on the horizon hills cliffs a sheltered cove. The lookout calls down hope in his voice. Land means firewood fish, maybe something sweet and alive to bite into. Earhart gives the nod. You sail closer. The cove is calm, unusually so. It hugs the ship like a trap disguised as shelter. As you anchor, silence thickens around you. No birds, no waves, not even the whisper of wind. The crew moves slower, uncertain. You lower the longboat with a few men. You go ashore with them. It's always you now. You've lasted longer than most. The sand is black volcanic. The trees mangled, twisted, lean like they're hiding secrets. You find a path, probably animal-made, and follow it. Brannock walks beside you again, silent as ever. He trusts your instincts. You wish you could say the same. You come upon ruins, ancient, half-buried. Stones etched with symbols no one understands. Circles within circles, jagged lines like lightning sunbursts. You see bones in the shadows, human probably. Not old enough to be relics. Not fresh enough to run. Brannock spits. We shouldn't be here. You agree. Back aboard, you advise Earhart to leave. He listens, but not fully. You stay one night, drop nets, patch sails. Then you pull anchor at dawn. As the cove fades behind you, you feel like something follows. Not a ship, a presence. A curse, maybe. Then someone goes mad. It starts with Rook, the wiry man with a sailor's laugh and a gambler's heart. He begins mumbling in his sleep, then screaming, then swinging a knife at shadows. Says the sea is whispering to him. Tells the captain that something from the island hitched a ride. They restrain him. He bites a man's ear clean off. The next morning, Rook is gone. No one admits to it. No one asks. You sleep with your blade under your chest now. The days blur. You spot sails in the distance once, but they vanish before you close in. Earhart calls them ghosts. No one laughs. You keep busy mending canvas, oiling hinges, cleaning your blade so often, the handle grows smooth under your fingers. Then the fever hits. It comes slow, one man shivering, then two, then coughing, then blood. It moves through the lower deck like smoke. You help carry the sick topside for air, but it doesn't help. Their eyes roll back, tongues swell. One man bites through his own lip, trying to breathe. Earhart orders the sick cast off. You hesitate, then obey. You tell yourself it's mercy, but you don't sleep that night. Soon after, food runs low again. The boar meat's gone. So is the fruit. Even the flour is molded through. You're back to salted fish and bug-laced hardtack. You chew slowly. You stop caring about the crunch. At least it means something's still alive. Water's the real concern. The barrels are near empty. One smells of rot. You try to boil it, but the taste stays. You ration your sips. Lips crack, tongue thick. Some start drinking seawater. Not much. Just enough to go mad. Kessler does it. 2 days later, he's ranting about fire beneath the waves. Says the sky is upside down. Then he jumps. Just walks off the deck like he's stepping into a tavern. No one dives in after him. You stare at the place he vanished, wondering what he saw. Then you move on. No time to mourn. You reach another port. Small, fortified, suspicious. The locals recognize your ship and close their gates. One priest tosses holy water from a tower window. You toss a curse back. You barter with a smuggler instead 3 daggers and a barrel of oil for a cask of grain and a pouch of dried dates. You eat 2 before you realize they're riddled with worms. You eat them anyway. The ship sets out again, patched, refilled, and just a little more broken. The crew shrinks now just enough to sail, not enough to fight. You take longer shifts. You grow used to the hunger. It's not pain anymore, just another rhythm. At night, you stare at the stars, trying to remember where you are, where you started. You can't. The constellations you once knew have shifted beyond recognition. One sailor swears he saw fire on the water last night. Another heard singing in a language none of you speak. You've stopped arguing with them. You believe it now. You believe anything. Because the sea is older than lies, older than maps, older than gods, and it's hungry. The hunger grows teeth. You wake each morning with your ribs more visible, your belt tightened another notch. Faces around you thin out, some from fever, some from starvation, some simply gone by the time you stir. You stop asking why. The sea wraith doesn't give answers. She just creaks and sails on. The crew becomes quieter. No more dice, no songs, not even curses. Only work. Sail, steer, patch, scrape, row. Even old Earhart stops barking orders. He points, now gestures. His voice is hoarse, as if something's being taken from him too. Brannock tries to fish. He rigs a line with a hook made from a snapped spoon, baits it with dried meat. Hours pass. Nothing. Just drifting seaweed and silence. You sit beside him saying nothing, hoping together. That kind of hope is dangerous. It means you still believe in something. When the line finally tugs, your heart leaps. Brannock reels it in, slow, steady. And when the silver glimmer breaks the surface, you both stare. It's not a fish, it's a hand, bloated, fingernails peeling, still clutching a scrap of rope. You cut the line. No one fishes after that. Then another sail. This time it's real broad, red-striped, flying the colors of a merchant guild. The ship is fat with cargo, its decks swaying under weight. You smell spice on the wind. You lick your lips and feel them crack. Earhart raises the alarm. You gather your blade, your courage, and what remains of your strength. You're too slow. The merchant ship sees you first. It turns hard and fast. She's faster, sleeker. She outruns you with ease. You watch her vanish into the horizon like a dream too fragile to hold. A few men curse, but most just slump where they stand. Hope is a heavier loss than hunger. Afterward, Earhart locks himself in his cabin for 2 days. No orders, no sound. When he emerges, his coat is gone, replaced by a monk's robe he must have stolen years ago. He mutters about atonement. The crew stares at him like he's already dead. You start to see strange things on the water. Lights at night, pale blue, drifting beside the ship, vanishing when you blink. Voices below deck, echoes of arguments you never had. A lullaby hummed by no one. You stop trusting your eyes, your ears even less, but you trust your hands. The weight of a blade, the callus of rope, the feel of your own pulse still beating even when the sea tries to smother it. Then comes the shipwreck. Not yours. You spot it drifting among broken masts and shattered planks, a derelict vessel run aground on a hidden reef. The hull is torn open like a gutted fish, its belly spilling crates and bones. No sails, no colors, just wreckage. Earhart insists on scavenging. Desperation makes men bold. You lower a boat, row hard. The tide is against you like the sea itself wants you to turn back. But you land boards creaking underfoot. You search the carcass of the wreck, finding boots, torn journals, shattered lanterns. No names, just ghosts. In the captain's quarters, you find a map, hand-drawn, marked with symbols matching the ruins you saw on that black sand island. Brannock finds something else, a necklace carved from bone hung around a skeletal neck. The skull still has hair. The eyes are missing sockets packed with salt. You leave it there. Back on the sea, Raith Earhart studies the map like scripture. He becomes obsessed. Talks of treasure, ancient harbors, forgotten empires beneath the waves. He says the map leads to salvation. You recognize the look in his eyes. It's the same look Rook had before he went mad. You speak to Brannock in whispers now. Quiet conversations behind barrels between rope coils. About leaving. About mutiny. About what happens if Earhart sails you straight into death chasing ghosts. But what would you do? You can't sail the ship alone, and there's nowhere to go. Land is a stranger. The sea is your only home now, so you stay. The ship follows the map. The stars above are unfamiliar. The wind smells different, sour, electric, as though something is burning in the air. Birds fly inland now, away from the water. That terrifies you more than storms. You start to dream again. Not memories, visions. Storms that breathe. Islands made of teeth. A girl with silver eyes who stares into you without blinking. You wake each time with your hands clenched, nails biting into your palms. Once you wake standing on the deck, barefoot, holding your knife. You don't remember getting up. You see the same look on other faces. You're all dreaming the same dream. And Earhart. He hasn't slept in days. His eyes are glass. His words slur. He orders full sail even as the sky darkens and the wind groans. You want to say something, but you don't. Because deep down, a part of you wants to see what's at the end of this map, even if it kills you, especially if it kills you. You sail into a sky the color of bruises. Clouds loom overhead like hanging fists, thick and slow. The air is heavy metallic, your tongue tastes iron. Lightning pulses on the horizon, but there's no thunder, no rain, just heat and silence. The sails droop heavy with moisture, and the sea itself seems to slow, as if holding its breath. Earhart clutches the map like a talisman. He traces the ink again and again, even though the page is warped from salt and sweat. He swears you're close. He talks of a harbor where the sea boils, guarded by statues with empty eyes. He says the treasure lies beneath bones so old they've turned to crystal. No one believes him. But no one stops him. What else would you do? You sail on past reefs sharp as blades, past waters too still, too dark. Then one morning the lookout calls land. But it's not the kind of land you'd hoped for. A jagged outcrop, tall as a fortress, rises from the sea like a broken tooth. Black stone veined with red. Around it wrecks dozens of them, half-submerged, broken masts. leaning like dead trees, a graveyard of ships, and in the center a narrow inlet, a path, the harbor, exactly as Earhart described. You shouldn't go in, but you do. The tide carries the sea wraith forward, drawn as if by unseen hands. The water glows faintly here, phosphorescent, like the ship sails over some sunken fire. Fish dart beneath you, translucent and pale, mouths open too wide. You grip the rail, heart hammering as the cliffs rise on either side. The wind dies completely. The only sound is the groan of wood and the distant echo of waves breaking against ancient stone. Then you see them. Statues. Dozens of them carved into the cliff walls. Not saints, not sailors. Things with elongated limbs, faces blurred like melting wax eyes, hollow and weeping. They line the pass like mourners or judges. No one speaks as you pass between them. The inlet opens into a lagoon, deep, round, unnatural. At the center, a stone platform just breaching the surface. Built by hands that knew more than rope and sail. No birds, no trees, just stone and silence. Earhart orders anchor. You hear murmurs, arguments. Brannock stares at you waiting. But you're already moving. You know you're going ashore. The decision was made the moment you saw the map. You climb into the longboat. Earhart, Brannock, and 4 others join. The oars creak softly as you row into that dead stillness. The water here is warm. When the boat touches the platform, you step out first. Stone underfoot, dry, cracked, marked with the same symbols you saw on the island and in the wreck. A circle, a jagged spiral, the sun's eye. You walk slowly, blade-drawn breath shallow. At the center, a hole, a perfect circle. Stairs spiral down into darkness. Earhart steps in without hesitation. Brannock grabs your arm. This is wrong. You know he's right, but you follow anyway. The stairwell is cold, slick with moss. The light fades fast, swallowed by the dark like breath in a storm. You descend in silence. One step, another, another. Then a glow, faint greenish blue. It pulses ahead like a heartbeat. The stairs end in a chamber. Walls etched with the same cursed language. In the center, a stone basin filled with liquid that shimmers like oil, flickering with light. Earhart steps forward, kneels, dips his fingers in. He smiles, then begins to laugh. It's not joy, it's surrender. He drinks. You lunge too late. His body seizes, then goes still, eyes wide, pupils gone, his mouth twitching. Then he speaks. But it's not his voice. It's too deep, too old. It says your name. It tells you what you've done. It speaks of every lie you've told, every life you've taken, every moment you longed for death, but kept breathing. You stumble back. Brannock pulls you away. The others are frozen, pale, weaponless. You run, up the stairs, out into the dead air. The longboat rocks beside the platform. You jump in. Brannock follows. The others do not. You row. Row like fire is behind you. When you reach the sea wraith, the crew stares wide-eyed. No one asks what happened. They see it on your face. You cut the anchor. The wind returns. But it's wrong. It comes from beneath. You sail. You don't look back. You don't speak. Not that night. Not for many nights. Earhart never returns. The next morning, the statues are gone. Just cliffs now. Plain, cold, lifeless cliffs, as if nothing ever happened. But you remember. The sea remembers. And the map gone. Burned, you think. Or maybe it was never real at all. But you still see it sometimes in your dreams, in the patterns of foam in the blood vessels of your own eyes when you stare into the sun too long. You've gone too far to turn back. There is no back, only forward. And forward means surviving. You stop counting the days. Out here, time dissolves. The sun rises and falls, but it means nothing. You sleep when you can eat, when there's something to chew, and work until your fingers split open. The wind has turned cruel again, shifting erratically, tugging the sails like it's trying to drag the sea wraith somewhere she doesn't want to go. The crew is thinner, not just in numbers, in spirit. Eyes are sunken, voices hollow. The men speak less now, and when they do, it's in whispers, fragmented thoughts, half-muttered prayers, words that don't make sense. You hear someone say they dreamed of fire in the ocean. Another says he heard Earhart laughing in the bilge. You haven't told anyone what happened beneath that stone platform. You're not even sure you could. There are no words that make it sound real. And Brannock, he's changed. He keeps to himself, staring out at the sea like it's whispering secrets only he understands. One night you hear him talking in his sleep, but it's not his voice. You don't wake him. You just move your hammock farther away. You sail into a region the charts don't mention. The stars here are wrong, larger, paler, unfamiliar in their patterns. The moon disappears for 3 nights straight. On the 4th, it returns blood red, and the waves take on a glow that turns your skin the color of bruises. Then comes the fog, thicker than before. It rolls in and never leaves. You navigate by instinct now, or by the gut of the quartermaster who claims he can feel currents in his teeth. He's not joking. You've seen him pull out a molar study, the root, and nod like it told him something important. And maybe it did. The fog changes things. Sounds are muffled shapes distorted. Once you see a second sea wraith, an exact copy, drifting alongside. Same sails, same masthead, even the same torn rigging you helped patch 2 weeks ago. You blink, it's gone. You keep that one to yourself. Supplies dwindle again. The salted meat smells of rot, and the weevils are too many to pick out now. You chew and swallow. Protein's protein. The water's worse, cloudy, thick tasting of iron. You drink it anyway. What choice do you have? Then the sickness starts again. 3 men fall in 2 days. Not with fever this time, but with silence. They stop speaking, stop responding. Eyes wide, jaws slack, hands trembling. As if something inside them has frozen solid. They die on the 3rd day. You bury them at sea. But the weight feels heavier now, like the sea doesn't want them back. The crew begins to talk about mutiny. Not openly, just looks exchanged during watch nods over stale bread. The quartermaster's grip on order is slipping. You hear someone suggest turning back even though there's no back anymore. And you don't know where you'd steer if you could. One morning the bell rings. Land. Real land. Not rocks or haunted coves. A coastline green, sloping with smoke rising from chimneyed rooftops. Civilization. Or something close to it. The crew erupts into motion. The sea wraith pulls into the harbor of a crumbling town, stone walls, sagging boats moored at crooked docks, streets winding like a drunk's footsteps. No banners fly, no colors, but people move among the market stalls. Life in some form. You disembark with Brannock and a few others. The air smells like ash and fish. You pass a shrine with no god, just a slab of bone wrapped in seaweed. A child stares at you, then runs. You trade what little you have left, hooks, nails, bits of silk for dried beans, millet, and a cask of bitter ale. No one haggles. The townsfolk look at you like they know where you've been, like they know something followed you back. At the tavern, you try to drink. The ale is thick sour. Still, it burns, and for a moment you feel almost human. Brannock sits beside you, quiet. His hands tremble when he lifts the cup. "Let's stay here," he says. You want to agree, but you don't. Because the sea won't let you. It never does. When you return to the ship, you find one of the crew hanging from the rigging. No note. No reason. Just a body swaying in the salt breeze. No one speaks. You set sail the next day. The town fades behind you, its shadows stretching long across the water, and the sky grows dark again. The kind of dark that lives in your chest long after the light returns. The horizon disappears. Not behind fog this time, but behind a wall of black clouds that rise like mountains. You sail toward it without protest. No one suggests turning back. What's behind you is no better than what lies ahead. Maybe worse. At least the storm will be honest. The wind howls before the rain starts. It screams through the rigging, tears loose cloth, rattles the bones of the sea wraith. The deck tilts at impossible angles. Barrels roll, men slide. You tie yourself to the mast and pray again, this time without words. Words feel small now. The sky cracks open. Lightning tears across the heavens like angry gods drawing blades. Thunder doesn't rumble, it explodes. Deafening. You see one of the crew, Jarek, lifted into the air by a gust and flung into the sea. Gone. Just like that. Another man loses a hand to a snapped rope. He doesn't scream, just cradles the stump like a child and sinks to the deck wide-eyed. Water pours down the hatch. You bail by hand, cup, bucket helmet, whatever you can. The bilge is flooding. The hull groans. You hear something below deck snap like a spine. And through it all, Earhart's voice echoes in your mind. Not words, just the sound. That deep, borrowed growl. You try to shake it. You can't. He's gone, but the sea remembers him. At dawn, the storm dies, like it was never there. The ocean is glassy, too calm. The sky is colorless. You lie flat on the deck, soaked, shivering, listening to your own heartbeat. 1, 2, 1, 2. Still there. Half the crew is gone. The sails hang limp. The mast is cracked. The tiller's splintered. The cook has a broken leg. The quartermaster's eyes don't focus anymore. He just mutters to himself and stares at his hands, turning them over like they've betrayed him. Brannock helps you patch the worst of the damage. You work in silence. Words feel unnecessary. The ship is bleeding. So are you. You don't talk about survival anymore. You just do what you can. Then you do it again. A few days later, maybe it's hard to tell anymore, you see something on the water. Not a ship, an object, floating. You fish it out with a pole, a chest, small, iron-bound, sealed with a rusted clasp. You hesitate before opening it. The crew gathers, watching. Inside books, old, wrapped in oilskin, still dry. You pull one free. It's bound in something too smooth to be leather. No title, no markings. You open it. The pages are filled with diagrams, maps, circles, runes, limbs, a language you can't read. Sketches of creatures with too many mouths. Eyes where they shouldn't be. Brannick slams it shut. We throw it back, he says. You agree. But the crew doesn't. They want answers, meaning, salvation, so you keep it. You bury it beneath the floorboards. That night, the dreams return. But they aren't dreams anymore. You wake with salt in your mouth, brine on your skin. You were never in your hammock. You were kneeling on the deck, facing the sea. Mouth open, praying. You don't remember the words, but your throat hurts from saying them. Brannick finds you like that. He doesn't speak, just unties the rope around your wrists and walks away. You hadn't noticed the knots. You find carvings on the rail, circles again, like the ones from the book. You don't remember carving them, but your knife is still in your belt. You stop sleeping. You volunteer for extra watch. You scrub the deck for hours just to hear the sound, just to feel something real. Then a bird, small, gray, perched on the crow's nest. No one has seen a bird in weeks. You stare at it like a vision. It flies off. You follow with your eyes, and then land. Real land. Not cliffs or rocks or teeth. A beach. Forests beyond. Smoke in the air. Another town. Another illusion. You don't care. You drop anchor. You lead the landing party. You carry nothing but a blade and the book. You don't remember grabbing it. Brannick follows blade drawn. He doesn't trust you anymore. You don't blame him. You don't trust yourself either, but you keep walking, because the sea doesn't let you stop, because whatever waits inland is better than what's behind, or worse. But at least it's new, and maybe new is enough. The sand is pale and warm beneath your boots, almost soft. It sticks to your legs, clings to the cloth of your torn trousers, works its way into every seam. After so long at sea, walking on something that doesn't sway feels unnatural. Your knees lock, your spine stiffens. Brannick walks a few paces behind you. You can feel his stare heavier than your pack, sharper than his blade. The trees at the edge of the shore are tall and close together, thick with vines and broad leaves that shimmer with dew. The forest doesn't welcome you. It waits. The others, just three, now fan out, weapons drawn. No one speaks. The only sound is the wind brushing against leaves and the occasional chirp of an unfamiliar bird warbling high and broken, like a song out of tune. You walk in silence for what feels like hours, following a path that may not be a path at all. Just a stretch of trodden ground where grass doesn't grow. Then suddenly, a clearing. At its center, a hut. No, not quite a hut. A shrine, maybe, built from stone blocks and driftwood crusted in salt veined with moss. Symbols are carved deep into every surface, familiar ones. You run your fingers across the spirals and circles, feeling them vibrate faintly under your touch. One of the others, Tomas, spits to the side and mutters more cursed ruins. But no one laughs. Inside the structure, the air is cool and still. You find bones carefully arranged in rings, not scattered. Skulls set in alcoves like sentries. In the center, a stone table. Upon it sits a bowl of black sand and a blade. Not rusted, not worn, clean, as if recently placed. Brannock steps beside you. "We shouldn't touch it," he says. "But you already have." The blade feels light in your hand, impossibly so. The metal is dark, etched with the same markings as the book. The grip is wrapped in something that doesn't feel like leather. It pulses. Just once. Like a heartbeat. You drop it. It lands soundlessly. Brannock pulls you back. Tomas and the others already have weapons raised. They heard something. You did too faint beneath the rustle of the trees. A voice. Childlike. Humming. You leave the shrine. No one speaks on the walk back. You reach the shore by nightfall, relieved to see the sea wraith still anchored in the bay, her shadow long across the water. But when you board, something's wrong. The crew is missing. Not dead, not fled, gone. Their hammocks are still swaying, bowls still full, a knife still stuck in a half-peeled potato. But not a single soul remains. You call out. Nothing answers. Brannock searches the lower deck. You check the rigging, the crow's nest, the bilge, all empty. Then you notice it. Carvings, fresh ones, all over the walls. Circles, spirals, suns with weeping faces, and handprints, hundreds of them, pressed in soot and salt, some small child-sized, others not. You gather the remaining supplies, unsure what else to do. You anchor offshore for the night, though no one sleeps. The sea is still, too still. At dawn, the fog returns. It clings to the deck, low and thick. Your breath feels heavy in your chest. The ship creaks with every heartbeat. And beneath that sound, you hear whispering. You try to trace the voices. They shift, slip between shadows, always just out of reach. Then footsteps. You and Brannock whirl, blades raised. But it's Tomas. He looks strange, eyes distant, smile wide. Found something, he says. He holds out the book. You didn't give it to him. You didn't even take it ashore. It was hidden. Beneath rope, beneath sail. You snatch it from him, heart racing. The pages are different now. The diagrams have changed. They move when you look away. One shows a ship sailing into a giant mouth. Another shows a man flayed, then stitched back together wrong. You close it. Too late. Tomas begins laughing, and then he jumps overboard. No scream, no splash, just gone. You rush to the rail. Nothing, just fog. You stare until your eyes sting. Brannock grabs your shoulder. "Burn it," he says. You hesitate. But you do. You light a lantern, douse the book in oil, set the flame. It doesn't burn. The fire dances across the pages, then dies. The book remains, heavier now, as if watching. You lock it away. At dusk you set sail. No destination, no map, just wind and instinct. Brannock takes the helm. You sit on the deck, listening to the creak of wood, the hush of waves, and the whispers. Always the whispers. They never left. Maybe they never will. The sails groan as they catch a sluggish breeze. You drift west, or what feels like west. Compass needles spin now, jerking and twitching, as if afraid to settle. You steer by sun and star, but even those seem to shift their positions unfamiliar, as if the sky itself is being redrawn. The crew, what remains of it, is silent. Brannock barely speaks, his hands always on the wheel, his eyes red-rimmed but unblinking. You try to rest, but don't dare close your eyes. When you do, the dreams come. The same ones, always the same. Dark water bubbling up through wood, a whisper in a voice you once knew but can't name. The feeling of something pressed against your chest, heavy and wet, whispering secrets in a language you almost understand. You wake, sweating, gasping, blade already in hand. Every time. The ship feels different. Not just broken or haunted aware. Like it listens. Like it waits. You avoid the lower deck now. It smells of damp stone and salt rot. The shadows linger too long. The hammocks creak even when no one's in them. One evening you find footprints on the deck, bare, small, moving in circles. No one saw anything. No one admits to it. Later you catch sight of someone near the stern, tall, cloaked, unmoving. You rush over, nothing. Just a coil of rope. You tell yourself it's fatigue, hunger. But the lies you feed yourself no longer go down smooth. Then one night the wind dies completely. The sails hang limp. The water turns to glass. A mirror. You look down and see not your face, but dozens. Pale, mouths open, eyes wide, staring. You stagger back. Brannock hears you fall and rushes over, blade drawn. You tell him. He doesn't laugh. He just nods, then sits by the rail, staring into the water for hours. You drift for days in that breathless stillness. The sun doesn't move. The stars don't shift. You start measuring time by the growl of your stomach, by how many planks you scrub, how many teeth you've lost to rot. Then, in the middle of that, nothing music. Faint. A woman's voice singing something lilting and slow. You rise numb and follow the sound. So does Brannock. Neither of you speaks. You find yourself at the bow. There, just beyond the reach of the fog, is a ship, or what looks like one. Black hull, tattered sails, no movement. The music comes from it. Earhart's voice, clear as storm glass, rises with the melody. You can't look away. You prepare to lower the boat. Brannock stops you. His eyes are wild. It's not real, I know you say. But you step over the rail anyway. You drop into the longboat. Brannock follows. You row in silence, the fog parting for the music. The black ship draws closer. Its timbers are etched with symbols you've seen before on the book on the shrine in your dreams. You tie off and climb aboard. The deck is dry. Not just dry, dusty. No moisture, no salt, no rot. It smells like an attic long abandoned. You move slowly, blade drawn. The music stops. Silence again. Then footsteps. You freeze. A figure emerges from the captain's quarters. It's you. Not exactly. Taller, paler. Your face stretched thin eyes too large, mouth smiling too wide. It says nothing, just watches. Then turns and walks below deck. You follow. You don't want to, but you do. Brannock calls your name once, then curses. You step below. The air is thick, wet. The light dims. The other you walks into the dark. You follow. The stairs spiral, too long, longer than they should. When you reach the bottom, there is no deck, just water, black. Still. In the center, the book, floating, open. The pages turn on their own. You step forward. Brannock grabs your arm, drags you back up the stairs onto the deck. The other you is gone. The ship begins to creak. Low, like a groan, then a scream. Not human. You leap back into the longboat. You row. The ship behind you burns, no flame, no smoke. Just crumbles to ash, dissolving into the sea like sugar. Back on the sea wraith, no one speaks. You cast off. The sea stirs again. The wind returns. You sail on. And the music, still in your head. Always, the sea churns beneath you now, not violent, not calm, just restless. It rolls like something dreaming fitfully beneath the surface. The sea wraith creaks with every shift, her hull no longer protesting, merely groaning like a tired old man, too weary to argue with the wind. Brannock keeps to the tiller, his eyes shadowed by sleeplessness and the weight of everything left unspoken. He doesn't ask what you saw aboard the black ship. He doesn't need to. You're not sure he'd believe you if you told him. You're not sure you believe it either. The crew is down to 6. 6 living, breathing men. The others gone. One vanished mid-watch, his lantern still burning, beside an undisturbed coil of rope. Another walked straight into the ocean during his turn at the helm, murmuring something about joining the whispers. You've stopped counting the losses. At night, the sky glows with a sickly green shimmer. Not the northern lights, not the way you remember them. This is something else. An aurora that pulses in rhythm with the tide, the stars bending slightly when it pulses like bowing to something unseen. You try to read the old stars, the sailor's constellations, the archer, the goat, the broken wheel. They're gone, replaced by new patterns, shapes that resemble runes, circles, jagged spires. You've begun naming them yourself. The open eye, the hooked maw, the one that waits. The names feel right, too right. One evening, Brannock hands you a scrap of sailcloth. On it, he's drawn one of the new constellations. He doesn't speak, just waits. You nod. You've both seen it before in the book, even before you opened it. Later that night, a man named Fallon begins to scream. He claws at his skin, rakes his nails down his face, sobs into the grain of the deck. He says something's inside him. Crawling. Feeding. You try to restrain him. He bites Brannock's hand. You knock him out with the butt of your blade. He doesn't wake again. You wrap his body in a sail weighted with rusted tools and give him to the sea. It doesn't accept him. The body floats. For days. It follows the ship, never drifting far. Just there. Watching. You throw spears at it. It dodges. Eventually it vanishes beneath the surface on its own. No splash. Just gone. That night, the ship moans louder than usual. The mast groans as if twisting in agony. The wood beneath your feet feels warmer, as if flushed with fever. You hear footsteps above your hammock, but when you climb topside, no one's there. Only the horizon rolling endless. Then comes the fog. Not the kind you've seen before. Not white or gray. This fog is red rust-colored, thick as blood, warm as breath. You sail into it blindly. The wheel groans. The compass spins again. Brannock ties it down out of spite. For 2 days, maybe more, you sail through this crimson veil. You see shapes in it, towers, faces, creatures too large to name. At one point, the fog parts briefly, and you see an island made of bones. Not coral, bones. A mountain of skulls and rib cages lapped by black waves. It vanishes before Brannock sees it. But you know he believes you. He started seeing things too. Finally, the fog lifts, and in the distance, land. Not cliffs, not ruins, not shrines. A city. You squint. Walls, spires, movement. You weep without realizing it. A place, a real place. You sail closer. Details sharpen. Buildings made of ivory-colored stone. Tiled rooftops. Bridges connecting towers. But no people. No sound. No birds. You drop anchor and row ashore. You walk cobbled streets where moss climbs every wall and vines strangle every doorway. The city is silent, but not dead. The lanterns burn. Fountains still pour. But there are no footprints, no voices. You step into a marketplace. Stalls filled with dried fish, woven baskets, spools of silk, all untouched. As if the city had life until a moment ago, and then left. Brannock kneels beside a shrine. The same symbols, the same circles. You turn a corner and stop. Before you a statue of you, carved in stone, lifelike, eyes too large, mouth too wide, one hand raised in warning or welcome. You step back. Brannock doesn't say a word. He just stares. And behind you faintly, the music returns. You spin around, heart-pounding ears, straining against the silence. The music flutters through the empty streets like a breeze, soft, melodic, distant. A woman's voice humming the same tune you heard on the black ship. It winds between the alleys, brushing the edges of your mind, awakening something just beneath your skin. You feel it in your bones before you hear it in your ears. Brannock tenses beside you. His blade is already drawn knuckles white. You exchange no words. You both know what comes next. You follow. The song leads you through courtyards, swallowed by vines, past fountains filled with unmoving water, beneath arched gates carved with spirals and mouths and twisted suns. The statues watch you every few paces. There's another. Not just of you now, of Brannock, of the crew, of faces long gone, mouths agape, fingers outstretched in frozen terror or reverence. The further you walk, the older the city feels, the stones darker, the carvings deeper, the air cooler. Time folds in on itself. You pass a window and glimpse your reflection, and it doesn't blink when you do. Then you reach it. The temple. Not grand, not tall, but wide, circular. No doors. Just an opening of yawning black, framed by the largest spiral you've seen, yet carved with the same precision as a wound. The music is loudest here. You step inside. The world narrows. The ceiling vanishes into shadow. The floor is smooth and wet, like standing on polished bone. Candles float unanchored, their flames still. In the center, a pool, a mirror. You approach. And there your face, but not your face, and its eyes glow faintly. Its mouth smiles, then opens and begins to speak. You hear no words, but they fill you nonetheless. Images flood your mind. The ship, the storm, the shrine, the book. Not memories, revelations. You see the sea wraith being built not in any shipyard, but in a pit, by pale figures with stitched mouths. You see Earhart's eyes long before they turned hollow. You see the book before it ever floated, resting on a pedestal beneath a sunless sea. You see yourself standing at a different wheel on a different ship in a different age, and always the spiral, spinning at the center of everything. You fall to your knees. The pool ripples. Brannock grabs your arm, pulls you away. Your ears ring. The music stops. You're gasping. The temple is empty again. The pool is gone. Just stone. Your reflection is yours again. Brannock doesn't ask what you saw. He helps you up, and without a word, you both leave. The city is quieter now. Still no people. Still no sounds. But the fountains have stopped. The lanterns are out. You pass the statue of yourself again. It has changed. The face is older, the eyes wider, and around its feet new carvings, fresh spirals, fresh names, names of the crew, names not yet spoken, yours among them. You don't remember carving it, but you don't question it either. Back on the beach, the sea wraith floats still and waiting, like she always does. Her sails flutter, and for the first time in weeks, the wind smells clean. Not blood, not rot, salt, home. If such a word still means anything. You board in silence. Brannock hoists the anchor. You take the wheel. The tide moves. The wind returns. And the sea opens once again. The city fades behind you, swallowed by mist, by memory, by whatever force dreams the world into being each morning. You sail on. You never ask where you're going, because now you know. It was never about direction, only movement, only the spiral, only the return. The days bleed into one another. You sail on open water with no chart, no stars you trust, no gods you remember how to pray to. The sea wraith has stopped creaking. She glides now eerily smooth, as though something beneath her keeps her aloft. The waves part not in resistance but in recognition. You are no longer a trespasser. You are part of the sea's memory. Brannock speaks less, sometimes not at all. He moves through the ship like a wraith himself, yellant watchful hands, always brushing the railing, as if expecting it to vanish beneath him. When he does speak, it's only to ask you questions you can't answer. Do you think we ever left? Did we bring this with us? Would it matter if we hadn't? You want to say no, but your voice fails you. It often does these days. The ship's shadow looks wrong now. When the sun strikes at midday, if that's what time it is, it stretches long and sharp, tapering to a point like a spear instead of a hull. You don't look over the edge much anymore. Not after you saw it. The shape, following, always just out of sight, moving like it's tethered to your keel. You never see it directly. Only in glances bubbles a flicker, a ridge of shadow in the swell. but it's there, watching, waiting, guiding. You dream of it too. It speaks without sound, shows you visions without light. You see yourself not now, not before, but after, sitting on a stone throne carved with salt lines and screaming mouths, your hands folded gently across your chest, your mouth sealed with wax. You wake with your teeth clenched so hard your gums bleed. You don't tell Brannock. He already knows. One night, if it's still night at all, you hear singing again. Not distant this time. Not soft. Clear. Close. You rise. So does Brannock. You go to the deck. And there they are. The crew. The ones you lost. The ones who vanished. Standing on the sea. Not floating. Standing. Their clothes hang dry. Their skin pale. Their mouths open. The music comes from nowhere, yet it hums in your ribs, moves in your lungs like breath. They don't beckon. They don't threaten. They just wait. One by one, they raise their hands, point behind you. You turn. The wheel is gone. The mast, too. The sea wraith isn't a ship anymore. She's a spine, a rib cage, a body. And you're inside it. You blink, it's a ship again. Brannock hasn't moved. You don't speak. Instead, you untie the sails, adjust the rigging, move forward. Because there is no going back. Not to the land, not to the stars, not to silence. Only the spiral remains. That eternal curl of journey, collapse and return. The sea has many names for it. You've forgotten your own. And as the fog closes in warm and red and pulsing like breath, you smile. Because now at last you understand. Let the salt fade. Let the sails fall still. The deck is quiet now, the voices soft, the tide distant and small like a child turning in sleep. Whatever chased you across that vast, dark ocean is gone. Or perhaps it was never chasing. Perhaps it was waiting for you to become what you were always meant to be. Your hands are calloused, but they rest now. The rope burn on your palms has healed. The blade you carried is sheathed for the last time. No fog, no music, no laughter echoing through an empty hull. Just the creak of timber in a gentle wind and the distant cry of gulls over calm water. You drift in that space between sleep and memory where waves don't crash but cradle. You remember the smell of wood smoke, of bitter ale and spoiled meat, but they no longer sting. The faces Brannock Earhart, the boy you called Bird, they pass across your mind like shadows under a moonlit sail. Faint kind and weightless. You are not sinking. You are settling. And the sea is not cruel anymore. It's quiet, honest, steady, as it always was, as you are now. So close your eyes. The tide is pulling gently, gently now. You've earned this stillness. You've traveled farther than most ever dare. Let the water rock you. Let the whisper in the back of your mind fall silent and sleep.